I'm not asking about the board. Everyone can see the board. I'm asking about this particular part. Is this visible to you? So why did you say yes? You know, this is the problem. You don't read the question, and you don't hear the question either. ठीक है? आ जाए. आप यहाँ क्या कर रहे हैं? Huh? Yeah, but I saw you in that class yesterday.
I did the first semester, but I did the second semester. The first semester courses I have to take.
He joined in the second semester.
Ah, so you came from some other university?
No, I came from an international student.
Huh?
International student.
Okay.
He from Sri Lanka. He didn't take
From
first
Sri Lanka. Okay, okay. Now I understand it. Yeah. Okay. Sri Lanka. ठीक है ना? I'm still. Something is wrong about this. बहरहाल मेरे ख्याल में फर्स्ट लेक्चर के लिए मुझे कोई चाहिए नहीं वो I'm Dr. Mukhtarullah. I'm Dean of Engineering, and usually I don't teach in the first year, but yeah, over the past few years I realized that we need to bring some of the practices which were meant for professionals. So in the traditional education, those practices were only given to students in the last, I would say, 2 years. But in the past, I would say 10 years, it has been realized that an early exposure is necessary. Yeah, because things are changing, industry is rapidly evolving. So what the industry is complaining is that they want the graduates to be ready from day one. Yeah. So in the past, so for example, when I graduated, the culture there was that industry would first train them. Yeah, there was a training period. Now they don't have the training period. Yeah, they want everyone to start. They even want you to start before your graduation. Can you imagine how? How can you start working before graduation? Yeah, internship. Yeah, internship and projects. You will have a final year project. Yeah, 2 semesters. So every one of you should aim for picking that project from the industry. Yeah, and that means that it will not come to you yeah, itself by itself. You have to make an effort. So you must have connections, you have contacts, right? And so from starting from today, you should now start that effort of, yeah, connecting with the right people. Yeah, to make sure that you solve a problem from the industry. Is that clear to everybody? Okay. So me involving in the first semester actually has the same reason. So the purpose, and I have Fakhar with me. He was also my student when he was younger. He's still young, I think, much younger than me. But I requested him to sit here and record lectures. Yeah. Now that doesn't mean that those lectures will be available to you right tomorrow. This is for our internal process. Maybe at some point, the senior faculty like me may not be available for teaching this course, and then we would like newcomers, new faculty actually to have those courses, yeah, online, or maybe, yeah, Udemy or whatever, edX or whatever. Yeah. So this doesn't mean that you relax and you say, oh, lectures to वैसे भी upload हो जाएंगी. So that these are not for you. Yeah, these lectures are meant because we never know. I mean, he has to teach as well, so he will not be available for editing. So maybe, yeah, maybe it takes 2 years to develop into something which is presentable to the outside world. ये मसला नहीं, ये इसका मतलब ये है कि आज ये स्क्रीन यूजफुल नहीं है मेरे लिए. सो यू नीड टू टॉक. मुझे लग ये रहा है ना कि ये इन्होंने वो कनेक्शन अभी नहीं लगाया HDMI वाला, और क्योंकि मुझे तो नज़र नहीं आ रहा. अगर नज़र आ रहा है वो मिस कर रहा है, वो अलग बात है. लेट मी ट्राई द अदर वन, बट आई डोंट थिंक दैट अनलेस समथिंग इज इनविजिबल, कि कुछ कनेक्शन शायद ट्राई कर लेता हूँ. फिर दूसरा ये वाला है ना वो, it's very clear because it's not long enough. Yeah, so they have not worked on it yet. So, but hopefully this will be sorted out in the next lecture. Today I don't need a board anyway, right? So I do need the board, but I don't need the projector, right? So इसको यहाँ से बंद कर सकते हैं. किधर है वो पावर जो है कॉर्ड, ये वाला है. Yeah. So I assume that you guys come from different backgrounds. So primarily in Pakistan, we have two types of education, two systems of education rather. The metric FSC system. So can you raise your hand if you come from that community? Yeah. So yeah, a predominant portion comes from that. Now, okay, and the other group, yeah, A level, O level. Okay, good. Yeah, this varies sometimes. Yeah, I mean in the past we got more people from O level and A level. So the reason I'm asking this question is that there are some myths, yeah, in the society about one group having some advantage over the other. Yeah, ऑलरेडी आपने शायद सुना होगा कि टेस्ट जब हम देते हैं तो वो टेस्ट तो बनाए एफएससी वालों के लिए होता है इस तरह का. और वो यूनिवर्सिटी में जो दूसरी पार्टी ये कहती है कि नहीं चलो टेस्ट हमने कर लिया पास, लेकिन यूनिवर्सिटी एजुकेशन है सारी A level के लिए बनी है. That is actually none of that is true. Yeah, so both of you come to this system with same, I would say, opportunity. Yeah, जिस तरह US is the land of opportunity. It was. It's not no longer the case. So yes. So what matters is something that you both share, and that is something you need to understand. So it's not about which system you come from. Of course, you will have advantages in some types of problems, but you will have disadvantages in others. So that thing actually balances out. कुछ लोग मैथ में ठीक होते हैं, कुछ लोग डिस्क्रिप्टिव में ठीक होते हैं, तो वो वेरिएशन तो वैसे भी होती है ना. वो तो even within one system you can have that variation. So what is common to all of you and which you must realize is the annual system versus the semester system. That is more important than A versus FSC. So do you know why is that so much important? Annual system में क्या problem है, which was good enough for you for your 12 years of education, but you need to actually abandon that way of thinking. You need to abandon that way of tackling problems. So who can explain that? Why is annual system a problem for you here?
So,
Hmm?
you used to get a final grade for one exam at the end of the year.
Yeah, that end of year exam. Although you do have internal assessments, but they are only meant for internal. They don't count to your final grade. So you somehow, humans are by nature, yeah, they are lazy. Yeah? So you know the meaning of insan? What is the literal meaning of insan? The one who forgets. It's the literal meaning. And that is why there is a concept of repentance and unforgiveness. So humans are by their very nature they are lazy, right? So that's why annual system is not meant for humans. The reason schools follow that system is because you have too much time there. 12 years is too much. Yeah? So maybe I should actually get rid of this now. And there, the same thing is emphasized over and over and over. So to cut the long story short, you need, I mean, if I want to give an analogy, it's test cricket versus T20. Yeah, a test player will be a total failure in T20, even in ODI, right? So time is very important. You need to learn how to. So there is a इस तरह वो coach उसको क्या मशवरा देता है बैटर को, batsman को. There is no rocket science. You need to make sure that you run in every over. So you should aim for run every ball, and if you miss one ball, you make sure that you score the next ball. ठीक है ना. ये नहीं हो सकता कि आप ओवर पूरा मेडन करें और आप ये होप करें कि एंड पे जो है ना मैं 3-4 छक्के मारूंगा. तो यहाँ पे भी ये है कि इफ यू हैव दिस चिल मोड एंड एट द एंड यू से ओके मैं सर उसी स्टाइल में रट्टे मार के, रट्टा तो वैसे यूनिवर्सिटी में नहीं चलता. ठीक है ना. You should forget about that rote learning thing. That will not work. ठीक है ना. So the only way to succeed in courses at the university level is to understand. Yeah. So now understanding is one part, but in this course, the purpose of this first lecture is to expose you to a strategy. I will call it strategy. उर्दू में इसको तरीका वारदात कहते हैं कि तरीका, वो तरीका क्या है उसका, जिस तरह चोरों का भी एक तरीका होता है ना. ठीक है, कौन से डाकू है, कहाँ, किस इलाके के, कच्चे के डाकू, उनका एक तरीका होता है. अगर आप उनको नहीं समझेंगे तो सो प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग इज द की. प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग. So let me tell you, engineering is about problem solving, regardless of whether you are an electrical engineer, computer engineer, civil engineer, right? Mechanical engineer, chemical engineer. At the end of the day, you will be engaged by your employer or your customer or whatever, or maybe you being your own employer, yeah, businessman. You will be solving problems, and by problem, it is very much possible that you have a misunderstanding of what we mean by problem. Yeah, क्योंकि आपने हो सकता है एंड चैप्टर के वो किए होंगे सॉल्व, उसको आप क्या कहते हैं, एक्सरसाइजेस. हैव यू वंडर्ड व्हाई दे आर नॉट कॉल्ड प्रॉब्लम्स? हो सकता है कुछ चीजें उसको प्रॉब्लम कह दें, लेकिन वो प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. व्हाई आर दे कॉल्ड एक्सरसाइजेस? सो व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन ए प्रॉब्लम एंड एन एक्सरसाइज? Exercise is meant for training only. Yeah? So you learn something, you learn a topic, you learn a few examples, and then the teacher or the system of education wants to make sure. So a better word for exercise is drill. Yeah? You have that drill. Let's say evacuation drill. Let's say I'm concerned that if there is an earthquake, I don't know how you will behave, because humans, they behave very strangely. Yeah? There is a very nice quote from, I don't know, Imam Ghazali or some Muslim scholar. He said that a dog will always behave like a dog, right? A cat will always behave like a cat. Yeah? Similarly, the list goes on. He lists many animals, and at the end he says, unfortunately, a human won't behave like a human. हरकतें देखें ना इंसानों की, he will do everything except, so it will not look like a human. Yeah, whether it's a he or a she, it's not nothing specific about any gender. So drill is to make sure that you learn how to evacuate this building, not to cause trouble. You should not be a problem for the other. एक तो ऑलरेडी एक मसला आया हुआ है नेचर की तरफ से, और आप इस तरीके से बाहर जा रहे हैं कि you actually become a threat to your fellow classmates. So ड्रिल का मकसद ये है कि ना सिर्फ समझना, और इस तरह ड्राइविंग में भी ड्रिल होता है, ड्राइविंग स्कूल होता है ना, ये नहीं है कि सिर्फ समझाना नहीं होता. तो एक्सरसाइज ड्रिल इज फॉर दैट पर्पस. प्रॉब्लम क्या होता है, हाउ इज प्रॉब्लम डिफरेंट फ्रॉम दैट? और अगर इन दोनों का पर्पस आपको पता चल जाए, सो यू विल आल्सो नो दे बोथ आर सिंपल इन अ सेंस दैट दे will target a specific topic. That's why that exercise, you will see that exercise by the end of that chapter only, not somewhere else. Because the purpose is to strengthen only that specific part of the course. And that's why you might find it difficult, but it is still manageable. क्योंकि आपको पता है कि अगर ये let's say laws of motion के बारे में है, तो वो laws of motion को ही डिस्कस करेगा. वहाँ पे अचानक ये नहीं होगा कि इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का कोई टॉपिक आ जाए. समझ आ गई बात? दूसरा, वहां पे अक्सर ये होगा कि it is given to you that it's chapter 2.3. Let's say there is an exercise 2.3. आपको पता है chapter 2 में क्या होता है? You know it. Yeah, the system will not hide it from you. And you also know that in that chapter, the third section is also meant for a particular topic. So day 1 से आपको clear है कि इसमें मेरा सिर्फ वो चेक हो रहा है कि have I followed the topic, have I understood the equations, can I apply those things. बात समझ आ गई? तो गोल क्या हो गया? Apply. Problem comes from the real world. So the best example is that when you get actually ill and you go to a medical doctor or a practitioner, and he also studied all those topics. Yeah, he studied many things. Yeah, how to deal with a patient. Yeah, when, for example, yeah, when he or she is suffering from flu or yeah, fever or all those different cases. जब आप उसके पास जाते हैं तो आप उसको ये बताते हैं कि आपने सेकंड ईयर में जो 7 चैप्टर पढ़ा था और उस 7 चैप्टर में जो सेक्शन 4 था, मैं उसका पेशेंट हूं. डू यू से दैट? नो. He has to figure that out by himself or herself. That is what we mean by a problem. You are a problem for him or her. समझ आ गई? So as an engineer, if you want to learn problem solving, you should learn to figure out from the description of a problem, and that description will not be in the language you are used to. आपको जो एक्सरसाइज इसका एक मसला ये है कि बिकॉज द पर्पस इज क्लियर, सो दीज क्वेश्चंस हैव बीन केयरफुली prepared by educationists, by experts who worked for years, so that you find it easy to understand those questions. So they don't try to test you whether you can figure it out or not. Problem में ये सारी चीज़ें flip हो जाती है. Because the problem, the language of the problem does not come from the educationist. Yeah? Let's say you graduate as an engineer or as a computer scientist or whatever field you actually go for, and there is an industry or an employer who engages you. So he may ask you questions during the interview to test your understanding and to test your skills, but that thing will stop. The next day, they will ask you to solve their problems. So do you think they will give you problems from some textbook? No. Why should they pay you for something? उसका तो solution पता है ना, वो आपको किस बात के पैसे दे रहा है. He is not giving you money to test you. That testing will be only once during the interview, और हो सकता है टेस्ट भी हो जाए, लेकिन उसके बाद वो चीज़ हो जाएगी खत्म. जिस तरह CSS होता है ना, CSS में वो रट्टे मार के लोग आ जाते हैं ना, मोस्टली तो रट्टा ही होता है ना, उसके बाद वो इसलिए तो हरकतें उनकी ठीक नहीं होती. अगर CSS में रट्टा खत्म हो जाए तो उनकी हरकतें भी ठीक हो जाएगी, ये बता दूं मैं आपको. ठीक है ना? ओनली क्योंकि दे लैक अंडरस्टैंडिंग, they push themselves to something which is not natural. ठीक है? So the next day when you get into the actual work, they will give you actual real problems, and it is your job to read that document. Maybe it is a document from some other industry, from a customer or a proposal. Yeah. So the description there will not be in your language. It will not be like x is equal to 3, y is equal to 4. Find x plus y whole squared. No, it will not be like that. It will be in some other language. So they say I have a problem. The simplest example will be like whenever I go to this grocery store, metro, yeah, there is a strange problem there. Can you tell me? These days, it's around for the last 2 to 3 years. There's a horrible thing there. The smell, yeah, because there is some dumping of garbage there in the surrounding, and that smell is unbearable. I'm just wondering if my friends from Germany, if they come to Pakistan, I sometimes ask them to come, and if they ask me, okay, have you invited me for this piece of, yeah, I won't be able to invite him again. So this is a real world problem. There is no X, there is no Y, there is no F, there is no M. Yes. So if you are asked to solve that problem, आप ये नहीं कह सकते हो मैं तो इंजीनियर हूँ, ये तो वो का काम है, चूड़ लोगों का काम है. Yeah? So it means that you don't know what a problem is. कोई आपको ये नहीं कह रहा कि जाके उसको सॉल्व कर दो. Yeah? You will still engage some other guys, but you have to come up with a plan. So which means that you first have to turn that problem from that language into this language. This is your job. You have to do that. You bring it to a form which you find, and maybe you don't solve it. You say, okay, yeah, this was the most challenging part, and after that I can just give it out to some rookie. yeah, who knows how to deal with X and Y, or maybe I can give it to an AI engine. आपको पता है आजकल जो AI है, आप prompt दे दें, बहुत सारी चीज़ें खुद सॉल्व कर, you don't even need humans. लेकिन वो AI इस गार्बेज का प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं कर सकता, क्योंकि that AI engine is not made for that purpose. उसको prompt किसने देना है? आपने देना है. And that is the science, that is the intellect. तो अगर आपको ये लगता है कि AI हमारी जॉब्स ले लेंगी, so it means that you still don't know what is going on. Only the nature of your job will change. समझ आ गई? AI tools डेवलप कौन कर रहा है? खुद डेवलप हो रहा है. ठीक है ना? I'm telling you, when I was a student in the final year, you know, everybody knows, even though you are in your first year, but you know that in the final year people have to write their report, right? At that time, I'm talking about 1990. Yeah, one advantage of being a man is that you don't need to hide your age. Yeah? So I'm talking about 1998, right? So this is the year where I had to write my final year report. I had heard about Microsoft Word, but I did not have access to any computer. I did not have a computer. I don't need to lie. मैं नहीं कह सकता कि मैं तो बड़ा जो है ना वो ये लोग आ रहे थे जा रहे थे और जो है ना वो जी आ जाए श्रीमान. No, I had no access to any computer, right? So and even those who had access to a computer, they didn't know how to use this Microsoft Word, because Microsoft Word now is much better than at the time. At that time, it was just useless. वो शशकों के लिए ठीक था, but it was not useful for writing an actual document. So imagine what was happening at that day. There were guys in the market, and they were called composers. Yeah? Not music composers, but document composers. I had to go there, right, with the hard copy of my report. I had to write that down with my pen, right? I had to hand that over to him, and I had to pay them, and they would write that document to me. Now that guy will also say that I lost my job to AI. No, that was a skill pertinent for that time. Yeah? So every time, every period, you know, in the 50s and 60s, computer scientists and programmers, they had to use punch card. I don't know if you heard this word, punch card. You know, this mission which was sent to the moon, that code had to be typed to the computer, not by a keyboard, because there was no keyboard. And there was no system to receive those characters. You had to type those things into a punch card. Yeah, but they still made it to the moon. Yeah? So the nature of activities will change. What I'm trying to tell you is that every period will have different tools, but the intellect is always something specific to humans. And that is why you are called Ashraful Makhluqat. Ashraful Makhluqat इसलिए नहीं है कि कुछ चीज़ आ जाए और डर जाए कि ये क्या होगा. अगर आप डर जाते हैं तो इसका मतलब ये है कि आप फिर आपके ऊपर वो चीज़ फिट हो जाती है ना, क्या humans will never behave. So you should behave like humans. You should recognize that you are not just like any other animal. Yeah? You are special, and you need to cope with any revolution. ये बात समझ आ गई? So the key is to, by now it should be very clear what we mean by problems. Right? Problems are very complex. They don't come from chapters. They don't come in a language which is easy. They don't come in a language which can be typed into a ChatGPT type of thing. You have to turn it into a language. Yeah. So all the developers now are trying to make it simple for people to use these engines. But those engines are just tools. Yeah, just like this marker. I don't see any difference between ChatGPT and this marker, because they are both tools for me. I am not a tool for them, right? ChatGPT is not in any position to use me, but I have all the luxury to use it. ये फर्क है आप में और टूल्स में. ये बात समझ आ गई आपको? ये बहुत क्लियर आपके दिमाग में होना चाहिए. सो हाइप के पीछे ना जाए. हाइप इसलिए लोग बनाते हैं क्योंकि कुछ लोगों के इंटरेस्ट होते हैं. दे वांट टू मेक मनी आउट ऑफ दैट. सो दे वुड लाइक यू टू बिलीव इन देयर वर्जन्स, से दैट यू फॉल. उनका बेसिकली मकसद ये है कि आप यहाँ से जब छुट्टी हो जाती है, यहाँ से आप कब जाएंगे? 4-5 बजे. So they want you to go to their training center so that you learn their skills. so that you pay them. और जब आप 6 महीने बाद उनसे पूछेंगे कि आपको मैंने इतने पैसे दिए, मैं क्या करूँ, कहते हैं बाकियों को पढ़ाओ. ठीक है ना. इस तरह तबलीग में आप जाते हैं 4 महीने, जी हाँ 4 महीने मैंने लगा दिए, क्या करूँ, अभी बाकियों को भी तबलीग में ले आओ. तो सारा दिन आप लोगों को तबलीग में ले आएंगे, लेकिन ये टाइम कभी भी नहीं कि करना क्या है. उस दिन एक वीडियो में देख रहा था, एक बाबा था, वो कह रहा था कायदे आज़म ने हमें ये तो बताया था कि काम काम काम, लेकिन उसने नहीं बताया कि काम करना क्या है. दैट्स व्हाई वी आर इन दिस मेस, राइट. सो जितनी भी पाकिस्तान में ट्रेनिंग हो रही है ना, उसमें उसका पर्पस किसी और को उल्लू बनाना होता है. बाय ट्रेनिंग देम यू कैन फूल मी बट यू कैन नॉट फूल योरसेल्फ. सो बाकी लोगों को उल्लू बनाए, खुद को कम से कम उल्लू ना समझे. बी रियल टू योरसेल्फ, राइट. फेक आप रिश्तेदारों के साथ हो सकते हैं, दोस्तों के साथ हो सकते हैं, लेकिन आप जब आईने में देख के खुद को उल्लू बनाएंगे ना, देन आई कांट हेल्प यू. इज दैट क्लियर? रियल, ठीक है. रियलिज्म इज द की. So we now get to, so what scientists and engineers have discovered over a large period of time, because they tried different things, and we don't want you to try those things because you don't have enough time, right? What I'm going to share with you is a culmination or a consequence of centuries of human effort, human civilization. ह्यूमन सिविलाइजेशन जो यहाँ तक आया है, ये ऐसे एक दिन में नहीं आया है. इसमें लोगों की जिंदगी आ गई है. People died for this process. I can tell you, I can even share you examples where one mathematician was thrown out of a boat because he said something which the other mathematicians didn't like. And this is not a joke, this is a real story. Because at that time, only rational numbers were accepted as legitimate numbers, right? This guy was ahead of his time, and he thought that this is also a number. And they told him, oh, come on, stop it. This cannot be a number. Because they didn't know how to make sense of it, right? That guy was killed because he insisted that this is a number. Can you believe it? So people died from math. Okay? It didn't come to you by chance. It is not a gift, okay? So it means that you are lucky that that process is now in place, and this is not my process. Don't think that I have actually invented this. I only read about it. So what I want you to know now is that there is an established process of solving problems, real world problems. You need to learn that process, understand it, and then you apply that strategy to any discipline, whether it's physics, whether it's computing, whether it's you can even share it with your friends from medicine, from economics. This is, of course, this is a scientific method, but you can apply scientific method to other problems as well, even to religion, if you are working in religion, right? So that process has different stages, right? And I will actually explain this in two ways. One is the method which you will also find in the textbook. By the way, in GCR, Google Classroom, I have already created a classroom. I think what I forgot today was to, do you think we will have access to internet, or have you copied the code? So how should I write that down? I think maybe you will get to know about it. Okay, maybe I will share that code with the academic office, right? This is something I should have done. Yeah. So when you find it out, tell me, and I'll write it there somewhere. Okay. So there you will see the textbook we are going to follow, the course outline, the objectives of this course. It is called CLO. Yeah? CLO, course learning outcomes. So every course will have some learning outcomes, and our purpose will be to make sure that you achieve those outcomes. So every course will have some course learning outcomes, just like a constitution, right? So
CA or
CEA. Okay, and this is for every course. Similarly, this program, right, called computer engineering for you and for others, computer electrical engineering, that whole program will have a bunch of outcomes as well. And they are not called course learning outcomes, they are called program learning outcomes. So PLOs are for this program. Actually, it's not for the program, it's for you. So sorry for the language. Yeah? So each one of you must graduate this institute with those PLOs. There are 11 PLOs, 11 outcomes. So we won't let you leave this place with a degree in your hand unless you acquire those 11 attributes. They are also called graduate attributes. So PLO is just a synonym for graduate attributes. This is defined for each student. So if I am an industry, you are my product, and I want my product to have that list of 11 attributes. Yes? किधर है वो नजर? लास्ट वाला? हाँ अच्छा ये वाला ठीक. So I'm now writing it down. ठीक है? Small n, L, 4, D, I, M, R, A. Right? That's how you can join. Okay? Thank you. So, because this is the goal, yeah, each one of you must achieve these 11, and you, I will at some point share these attributes as well. They're also written down in the corridor. So I would like you to actually read that instead of me repeating that same thing. Yeah, there's nothing special about it. So each course, like this course, the other course, the other course, the other course, all those courses are meant to help you achieve. So maybe this course will be targeting 2 of those. Some other course will be targeting 3 of those. Some courses may target just 1 of those depending on the outline, right? And then the topics of each course. So you think, you see this top-down approach. At the top, you have the PLO. To achieve that, you have courses, each course with CLOs. And then in that course, there will be topics, chapters, problems, yeah, discussions to achieve those CLOs. And it doesn't stop there. These 11 graduate attributes, by making sure that each one of you has these attributes, we are trying something above to achieve. And that thing is about this whole program. So while these PLOs and these GRs are for you, those, they're called PEOs, Program Educational Objectives, right? So they are meant to be achieved by this whole department. Not the department, but this particular program, because this department, I mean, yeah, we have two departments, Department of Computer Engineering, Department of Electrical Engineering. So if the Department of Computer Engineering tomorrow starts another program, then this same department will have 2 sets of PEOs for each program. So PEOs are achieved through PLOs, and not just one student, but all of the students, the majority, right? PLOs are achieved through courses with their CLOs. CLOs are achieved through assessments, quizzes, assignment, yeah, final exam, sessionals, teacher, topic. ठीक है? और ये जो PEOs है उनके ऊपर भी चीज होती है, फिर यूनिवर्सिटी आ जाती है. एक तो डिपार्टमेंट्स है ना, फिर पूरी यूनिवर्सिटी का एक मिशन होता है कि हमने क्या करना है. ठीक है? So उस मिशन को अचीव करने के लिए आपने different departments बनाए, हर डिपार्टमेंट के. So all departments with their PEOs, they team up to achieve a mission for that institute. And the mission will also have a list of statements. That is then a mechanism to achieve something at the very top, and that is the vision. So vision, mission, PEOs, PLOs, CLOs, topics, assessments, everything. The reason I shared this thing is that this is actually, although this is not part of the course, but this is, I told you many things, but I told you in a structured way. So remembering different things becomes very easy if you learn them in relationship to each other. Do not learn things in isolation. So you see, some of you might find it very difficult to have English vocabulary. You know why is English building vocabulary difficult? Because we try to memorize each word and its meaning in isolation. That never works. You try to find trees. So if I have an English word, let's say I have, this is just a random word that came to my mind, yeah, tractor. Now, tractor in isolation will be very difficult. I have to make a tree of related words. For example, traction, yeah, extract. They all have the same origin basically. Yeah? Abstract, to abstract out. So actually, they all will share something in common. You can search out yourself. Yeah. So it is called associative learning, right? This is a learning strategy where you read things or where you learn things not in isolation but as a map. So your mind also becomes very efficient. So ये आपको एक चीज मैं बताऊं, ये आपको डिफरेंट रिश्तेदारों के या दोस्तों के नाम क्यों याद रहते हैं? Why don't you actually forget? You don't even remember their names. You also remember what they did to you. Very, very well. जितनी डिटेल्स आपको पता होती है ना, so I wish I could remember those things. ठीक है ना? क्यों? You never make an effort. Why? Because you see them in relationship to each other. इसी तरह मूवी में भी ना, मूवी में why is easy to remember all the characters? Because there is that whole plot. Isolation में कभी भी अब चीज़ें, और यही कुरान का होता है. कुरान में ये जो लोग कुरान से अपना अपना मतलब निकालते हैं ना, हर फिरका अपना मतलब निकालता है और वो सारे ठीक होते हैं, गलत कोई भी नहीं होता. यहाँ पे गलत तो पॉसिबल ही नहीं है ना. इस नेशन में एक चीज़ हमें बताई जाती है कि गलत नहीं होना आपने और ना मानना है आपने. तो एक कुरान, मेरा अपना मतलब, आपका अपना मतलब, और हम सारे ठीक है, तो फिर गलत कौन है बताएं? मुझे मारो. मैं कभी कभी कहता हूँ इन सबको, मैं कहता हूँ सारे फिरकों को क्या हो, मुझे मारो, अगर आपका इस पे मसला हल हो जाता है. लेकिन आई डोंट नो, किलिंग वन पर्सन विल नॉट बी इनफ. ठीक है. सो ट्राई टू, सो ये जो मैं आपको एग्जांपल इसलिए दे रहा था कि नो मैटर हाउ कॉम्प्लिकेटेड समथिंग गेट्स, यू कैन सिंप्लीफाई इट बाय जस्ट स्ट्रक्चरिंग इट. तो अभी जो मैं आपको स्ट्रेटजी बता रहा हूँ, इसमें भी वो है कि प्रॉब्लम जितना भी मुश्किल है, इफ यू नो दिस स्ट्रेटजी एंड इट इज अ स्ट्रक्चर्ड वे ऑफ अटैकिंग अ प्रॉब्लम, यू विल फाइंड इट वेरी इजी टू सॉल्व इट. ठीक है. सो व्हाट इज द फर्स्ट स्ट्रेटजी, द फर्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ द स्ट्रेटजी? So that's the GCR code, right? So I'm going to actually have one way of presenting that strategy here. So I can think of this as strategy, but there is another way of talking about this thing, and that is also okay. There are 5 attributes in you. So if you can acquire those 5 attributes, it is the same as if you have learned this strategy. So these are parts of a strategy, and you can learn the strategy, you can practice the strategy, you can benefit from the strategy if you make sure that these 5 attributes are part of your personality. So you have to actually, it's not just talking about it. हमारा एक मसला ये भी है ना कि बोलना, हमारे बोलने का मसला है ना कि we love to talk about things but we don't practice them. ठीक है ना. तो when I say these attributes, I mean that you have to acquire those attributes, not just blabber about it. ठीक है. So एक है model. You will need a model of a situation, and you should know what I mean by a model, because I already told you that every problem is complicated. So if you look at the details, there will be too much to look for. So if you pay attention, just like there is a quote by Napoleon that let's say you want to reach your destination, and he said you cannot reach your destination if you if you stop everywhere and throw stones at every barking dog. रास्ते में कुत्ते भौंक रहे हैं ना, और आप हर कुत्ते को पत्थर मार रहे हैं, तो आप सारी जिंदगी पत्थर ही मारते रहेंगे, आप अपनी डेस्टिनेशन पे नहीं पहुंचेंगे. और ये आपके लिए मशवरा है, रिश्तेदारों को बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंस ना दें. When you pay attention to everything they do, you are the victim. And you are responsible for that problem. क्योंकि it's you who gives attention to unimportant people. बात समझ आ गई? सिर्फ उनको इंपॉर्टेंस दे जो कि रिश्तेदारी को समझते हैं. It's also true about friends. It's also true about your classmates. आपका यहाँ पे इस 4 साल में एक मकसद है, to become a professional. आपके जो क्लास फेलो उसमें फिट होते हैं उनको रिस्पेक्ट दें, उनको टाइम दें. जो उसमें नहीं फिट बैठते उनको निकाल दें अपनी जिंदगी में से. There is no compulsion. You're not responsible to entertain each and every one. ठीक है? Only pay attention, only entertain people who are in line with your goals. बात समझ आ गई? अगर आपका गोल नहीं है, फिर मेरी बात है, आपको जहर लगेगी. कुछ लोगों का गोल नहीं होता, वो कहते हैं हम सिर्फ चिल मारने के लिए आए हैं यूनिवर्सिटी में. तो अगर आप चिल मारने के लिए आए हैं तो आप तो वैसे ही मुझे बर्दाश्त करेंगे कि यार ये 90 मिनट कब खत्म हो गया. सो माई एडवाइस इज नॉट फॉर दोज हु आर हियर जस्ट फॉर फन. आई कैन रिक्वेस्ट देम टू स्टॉप दैट. या एंड अगर आपने 4 साल गुजारने ही है तो व्हाई नॉट टर्न दिस इनटू समथिंग यूजफुल. ट्राई टू एक्चुअली कंट्रीब्यूट टू दिस वर्ल्ड. जब आप इस दुनिया में आए हैं, यू आर कंज्यूमिंग फूड, यू आर कंज्यूमिंग एनर्जी, you are emitting carbon, yeah, so you are giving very bad things to this universe. So you should also give something good to this universe by learning and by contributing to the society, that you will feel good. Yeah, ठीक है. So इसका मतलब ये है कि you need to simplify that situation, get rid of all the unnecessary details, and I will show you examples in a while. And just, this is a very big picture, yeah. Just try to pay attention to things that are really, really necessary for that particular problem, because every problem will require a certain type of detail. So you should be very clever, yeah, to identify what is it that I must take into account. ये बात समझ आ गई? जिस तरह आप बैंक में जाते हैं एज ए कस्टमर, सो बैंक वाले को आपके मजहब से कोई ताल्लुक नहीं है कि आर यू अ मुस्लिम और अ क्रिश्चियन. आपके फिरके से भी उसको मतलब नहीं है. उसको इससे मतलब है कि पैसा कितना ला रहा है हमारे बैंक में. समझ आ गई? और ये फ्रॉड या तो नहीं है. उसको इससे कोई गरज नहीं है कि आप इंजीनियर है या कंप्यूटर साइंटिस्ट है या आप इमिग्रेंट है. नो, दैट इज नॉट, नन ऑफ. उसका जो गोल है उसके लिए सिर्फ एक चीज मैटर कर रही है कि आप फ्रॉड या नहीं है, एंड यू हैव मनी टू डिपॉजिट इन दैट बैंक. अब आप अभी क्लियर हो गया? ठीक है ना? तो हर प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व करने के लिए देयर विल बी ओनली सम डिटेल व्हिच विल बी रेलेवेंट टू यू. एवरी अदर डिटेल हैज टू गो टू दिस डस्टबिन. बस समझ आ गई? डोंट पे अटेंशन टू एवरीथिंग. इस प्रोसेस को हम क्या क्या कहते हैं कि वी डोंट वांट टू वर्क विद द फुल प्रॉब्लम बट विद ए मॉडल ऑफ द थिंग वी आर डीलिंग विद. देन दैट मॉडल, so by actually I am in the bracket, you will have many simplifying what? Assumptions. So a model is just a fancy name for the list of assumptions you have to make. Let's assume that this is round. Yeah? Let's assume that this is a particle. You have already been doing this. Let's assume that I have a rigid body. Remember? You must recall those things. Let's assume that this is a straight path. You know the path is not straight, but you assume that the path is, because that makes your life easy. The details of the path, you look at this marker, yeah, this marker looks straight. If you look at this marker in the microscope, it will not be straight, there will be many details. But I don't need that details for many problems. So there are many problems where too much detail is not good for you. ठीक है? So आप समझ आएगी कि मॉडल क्या मतलब है. That model, maybe you have made those assumptions, but it sometimes help to visualize. That model should allow you to draw some nice diagrams, some arrows, some dots, yeah, like Venn diagram, yeah, free body diagram, circuit diagram. आपने सारे ड्रॉ किए हुए हैं. So it is. So you need to learn how to draw the right type of diagram. ये नहीं है कि सर्किट को सॉल्व कर रहे हैं और आप जो है ना वो न्यूटन लॉ के डायग्राम बना रहे हो. You cannot solve a circuit problem with a free body diagram. Similarly, you cannot solve a mechanical problem by drawing a resistor and a capacitor. समझ आ गई ना? So you need to learn the right type of visual representation. बात समझ आ गई? बायोलॉजी में अपने डायग्राम्स होते हैं, केमिस्ट्री में अपने होते हैं, ठीक है, बॉन्ड्स वगैरह, एटम्स सारे. एंड दे आर नॉट रियल पिक्चर, दे आर जस्ट योर मेंटल. ये मैं बोल रहा हूँ, आप मैकेनिक्स में डायग्राम ड्रॉ करते हैं ना, ये इस तरह का बॉक्स बनाते हैं और यहाँ पे क्या लिखते हैं? Does it mean that that is a rectangular box? No. The actual shape might be very different. So you're not claiming that I have a cube. You are only helping yourself. This is what I mean by. इसी तरह अगर मैं ये ड्रॉ कर रहा हूँ रजिस्टर, I don't have a wire in mind which goes like that and that. फिर तो ये बल्ब रजिस्टर नहीं, बल्ब में तो इस तरह की चीजें मुझे नहीं मिल रही, या हीटर में इस तरह हो सकता है वो मिल भी जाए. That's not the point. ठीक है. So model visualize, फिर solve है ना. Then you apply some methods you learn to solve. So you, अच्छा आप डायरेक्टली यहां से स्टार्ट करते हैं, तो जो x is equal to 2, y is equal to 3, वो ये स्टेज है. लेकिन इससे पहले ये दो भी आपने करना है, और इस दौरान you will actually spit out many symbols. So you will come up with names like किसी को आप x कहेंगे, किसी को आप y कहेंगे, किसी को आप m कहेंगे. ये आपने करना है, ये किसी और ने नहीं देना आपको. You are setting the problem yourself. ठीक है. Then you solve the equations or whatever. ठीक है. और end पे क्या था? Review. Just having an answer is not enough. You need to judge the answer. Does it make sense? जिस प्रॉब्लम को मैंने सॉल्व किया है वो हल हो रहा है कि नहीं, या सिर्फ वैल्यूज आ रही है. Let's say मैं calculate, I have to calculate, let's say the height of a person, right? The height of a person, and the answer turns out to be -5. Is that acceptable? You cannot have negative height. Or if the height comes up to be, let's say 0.001 micrometer, will you accept that? No. You cannot tell me, oh मैंने इक्वेशन तो सारे ठीक यूज किए हैं. समझे गलत किया आपने, गंद मचाया है, सीरियस गंद आपने मचाया हुआ. सो सेल्फ रिव्यू ये नहीं है कि कोई आके चेक करेगा, आप इस मोड से निकल जाए. अभी नाउ आई एम टेलिंग यू द डिफरेंस बिटवीन द यूनिवर्सिटी एजुकेशन एंड द कॉलेज एंड स्कूल. वहां पे यू प्रॉब्लम बना के भी कोई और दे रहा है आपको, और ये रिव्यू भी वो कर रहा है, और आपको पास और फेल करता है, और आप सिर्फ इस स्टेज में होते हैं. यू हैव टू एम्ब्रेस ऑल ऑफ दीज. You have to set up the problem, you have to visualize it, you have to solve it, and then you have to be your own judge. Don't leave it to someone else to criticize you. ये ना समझे कि एंड पे मैं मार्क करूंगा. वो जो हम मार्किंग देते हैं वो दैट इज जस्ट अ पार्ट ऑफ द प्रोसेस, कि वो डिस्टिंग्विश करना है बिटवीन ए ग्रेड्स एंड बी ग्रेड्स, लेकिन वो पर्पस नहीं है. आप ये नहीं है कि बस मैं मार्क्स आपको दे दूं तो उस टाइम तक आप क्या करेंगे. नो, एवरी डे यू नीड टू बी सेल्फ अकाउंटेबल. तो जो आप मेथड अप्लाई कर रहे हैं, आप इसको देखिए कि यार चबल तो नहीं मारी मैंने, ठीक है ना, तो बोंगी तो नहीं मारी, और वो आप खुद डिसाइड करेंगे. समझ आ गई बात. एंड दिस इज समथिंग व्हिच मस्ट बी पार्ट ऑफ योर पर्सनालिटी. सो इफ यू डेवलप इनटू सच अ पर्सन हु ऑलवेज क्रिटिसाइजेस हिज और हर ओन सॉल्यूशंस, आप इंडस्ट्री में यू विल बी एक्चुअली आई वुड से अ लग्जरी टू योर एम्प्लॉयर. दे वुड जस्ट लव यू, क्योंकि उनको इसी तरह के लोग चाहिए. प्रॉब्लम सॉल्वर ऐसे होते हैं, वो एरोगेंट नहीं होते, वो कामचोर नहीं होते, ठीक है ना. वो ये नहीं होते कि कोई आके मुझे बताएगा, किसी को बताने की जरूरत नहीं है. यू आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल, यू नो यू हैव टू सॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम. तो ये नहीं कि वो बॉस आ गए तो उठ के काम शुरू कर दिया, और बॉस चले गए तो आप फेसबुक पे चले गए. नॉनसेंस. आई एम नॉट अगेंस्ट फेसबुक, बट यू यूज दीज टूल्स लाइक सोशल मीडिया, इंस्टाग्राम, ट्विटर, या फेसबुक, पता नहीं और क्या क्या है. Turn those tools into your advantage. Share your technical stuff on them. तो कल कुछ एम्प्लॉयर कोई आपका इंस्टाग्राम देखेगा या आपका लिंक्डइन देखेगा, सो दे विल सी अ सीरियस पर्सन. तो अगर आपने सारे जो है ना वो लतीफ़े शेयर किए हों और जो है ना वो सेल्फी शेयर किए हों कि मैं इधर गया हूँ और नित्या गली में मैं जलील हो रहा हूँ, रोड बंद है, अच्छा दे जस्ट लव शेयरिंग दिस पिक्चर. अच्छा अगली दफा फिर जाना है जलील होने के लिए, because we love the process of getting ridiculed. We don't love this process, we love that process. ठीक है, something is terribly wrong with this nation. ठीक है, I never understand that. So try to जलील आप इसमें हो, ठीक है ना, बोंगी हमारे, गलतियां करें, गलतियां आप करेंगे, गलतियों से ही आप सीखेंगे. आप कितनी दफा गलतियां करेंगे ना अल्टीमेटली. एंड डोंट बी शाई ऑफ शेयरिंग योर नॉनसेंसिकल आंसर विद योर फ्रेंड्स, क्योंकि दिस इज हाउ द साइंटिस्ट लर्न. अब ये ना समझे कि ये जो साइंटिस्ट बने हैं ये ऐसी ही बस जो है ना वो सुबह उठे और न्यूटन को पता चल गया हो मैं तो साइंटिस्ट बन गया हूं. नो, ही वेंट थ्रू द सेम प्रोसेस. ही वाज रिडिक्यूल्ड. आपको पता है मैक्स प्लांक इज अ बिग नेम, राइट? मैक्स प्लांक ना होता तो क्वांटम मैकेनिक्स भी ना होता, और क्वांटम मैकेनिक्स ना होता तो बहुत सारे टेक्नोलॉजीज आपके पास, कम से कम ये फोन मैं गारंटी कर सकता हूं कि विदाउट क्वांटम मैकेनिक्स दिस फोन इज नॉट पॉसिबल, पीरियड. आप वही वो हैंड्स वो जो नहीं होता वो जो लैंडलाइन वो आप यूज कर रहे होते. समझ आ गई? When he was in Berlin, he was a German. When he shared for the first time this idea that energy is quantized, yeah, which you studied, yeah, Planck's constant, or there is a fixed energy if you go from one energy level to another, yeah. So electrons cannot have every value, every possible value of energy. There are only discrete levels, and that's why when the electron falls from that level to this level, that energy has to be released in the form of photon. When he talked about this thing for the first time, he was ridiculed. People were making fun of him, and this happened for 2 months, and he thought about committing suicide many times. और उसकी फैमिली सपोर्ट ना करती तो मर जाता. And the same thing happened to another character, you must have heard his name. He was also German. When he said that atoms are real, because to Greeks atoms were just abstractions, they had no physical or real existence. When Boltzmann gave a talk, and I don't know the city, but it was France probably, he was German, and he gave a lecture and he said that my hypothesis is that atoms are actually real. It's not just an idea, it's the real thing. People left that hall. They said that we thought that we are here for some serious business and we're not here to listen to this nonsense. He was so disturbed, he went to Italy for holidays and he killed himself. He hanged himself to death. The family को बताया कि मैं वो I am tired, so I just need some break. वो वहाँ पता चला कि वो मर चुका था. समझा ये बात मैंने क्यों शुरू की है? Why did I start this? कोई चीज ट्रिगर हुई थी ना? Yeah, do not be scared. बोल्ट्समैन और प्लांक के साथ ये हो सकता है तो मेरे और आपके साथ हो जाए तो क्या मसला है? समझा गई? Be proud of your stupid mistakes in solving problems. ये नहीं है कि हर चीज पे प्राउड हो जाए, ठीक है ना? ये नहीं है कल को आप जो है ना वो ये आपने ये हटा दिए हैं ये दोनों और इसे आई ट्राइड समथिंग सो इट लुक्स सो कूल. आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट दैट प्राइड, ओके? अब करे लेकिन मेरे सामने ना करेगा मुझे, ठीक है? आई वोंट सपोर्ट दैट, ठीक है? So model, visualize, solve, revision. So now let's talk about this one as well. This will also help. Smart. Acha, when you hear the word smart, what comes to you for the first time? Huh? Yeah, smart is just another word for clever, right? Very smart. अच्छा वो नहीं है कि बड़े स्मार्ट लग रहे हो आप. ये बॉलीवुड वाला इंग्लिश है ना. व्हाट दे मीन इज स्लिम, ठीक है ना? तो स्लिम हैज नथिंग टू डू विद स्मार्ट, ठीक है? स्मार्ट मीन्स या समथिंग इज या, ठीक है? बट दिस स्मार्ट इज डिफरेंट, राइट? This is some strategy. So if you want to solve a problem, I like this more than this, क्योंकि यहाँ पे वो डायरेक्टली मॉडल पे चला गया है. मॉडल से पहले भी कुछ करना होता है, वो है स्टेट. State the problems in your own, state the problem in your own words. अगर आपको प्रॉब्लम दिया गया है किसी फॉर्म में, तो ठीक है, वो फॉर्म आपको समझ आ गई है, लेकिन ट्राई टू राइट दैट थिंग इन योर ओन वर्ड्स टू बेटर अंडरस्टैंड इट. क्योंकि अगर चीज गलत हुई है तो आपको लगे कि यार कहीं इसका ये मतलब तो नहीं है, मैं उसका और मतलब तो नहीं ले रहा. सो एवरी टाइम ट्राई टू राइट दैट क्वेश्चन इन योर ओन words to make sure that you understand it, and only then this model will be correct. Otherwise, if you don't make an effort to read the question carefully, maybe you come up with the wrong model, और जब मॉडल गलत होगा तो बाकी सारी चीजें गलत होंगी. So state the problem and then model. ठीक है. यहां सॉल्व की जगह इधर क्या है? Analyze, use the model, try different scenarios. Try, अगर ये होगा तो ये हो सकता है, लेकिन इस सबको करने के लिए आपके पास मॉडल अवेलेबल है. You can work with the model. You have equations, you have graphs, you have simulation, program लिखा हो, ये सारे उसमें आ जाते हैं. कोड भी आ जाता है, इक्वेशन भी आ जाते हैं, एवरीथिंग. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट, reflect, just like review. Reflect, does it make sense? Is this what I was expecting, or is something really, really stupid? Yeah. And last one, think about it. Don't try just these 4 things. Maybe this should open up a gateway for another problem. So ये नहीं है कि बस सिर्फ ये problem solve हो गया और खत्म. Many solutions help other disciplines to try to write about it, share it with the community, so that they use your solution for their problem. Think इसको कहते हैं. ठीक है. So smart, and this, how do you say it? MVSR. I don't know how you say it. ठीक है. This is the idea. So I think I'm done with this strategy. Now we need some examples, क्योंकि I think you are intelligent enough to make sense of that, but we still need examples. ठीक है. तो इन दोनों चीजों को समझाने के लिए, अच्छा, first let me tell you that none of this is my invention. ठीक है. I have no contribution. I just try to understand it and I try to share it with you. लेकिन इनको समझने के लिए मैंने एक स्ट्रेटेजी अपनी बनाई है, और that might help you actually understand and make use of this better. तो वो मैं भी शेयर करने लगा हूँ. कितना टाइम है हमारे पास? अभी टाइम है ना? ठीक है. तो I need to know, क्योंकि ऐसा ना हो मैं जोश खिताबत में ना. ठीक है, सही है. नहीं, I still need to know. ठीक है. ये 2 hours इसलिए कि हफ्ते में एक दफा होता है ना. अच्छा, if you have any questions so far you can ask, because this is now the next. कोई क्वेश्चन है तो आप पूछ ले before I get rid of this. Are there any questions? हाँ? चुप करके बैठे ना कभी टाइम से कुछ सवाल पूछने हैं. कहाँ से बिलोंग करते हैं, कहाँ से थोड़ा ना मजाक आप तरफ हो रहा है. आप ये बताएं, ये जो कभी-कभी मैं आप लोगों की बात करता हूँ कि आप नतिया गली गए हैं या रिश्तेदार, is this acceptable, और आप कहते हैं कि यार he is now sticking his nose in our business? Is that okay? ये क्योंकि this is actually, I am also part of the society. I'm not someone from an outside world. So I'm just sharing you human weaknesses, human tendencies. And if you are aware of your limitations, you are aware of the temptations, you can actually overcome them. ठीक है? दूसरा ये है कि आप में से अभी मुझे पता है ऐसे स्टूडेंट्स होंगे जिनके जहन में कोई क्वेश्चन आ रहा होगा. ठीक है. लेकिन वो कहेंगे कि यार अगर मैं पूछ लूँ ना तो सर कहेंगे कि यार ये मैं इनको अभी तक पढ़ा रहा था, इनको ये बात समझ नहीं आ रही. सो दैट इज रॉन्ग. ठीक है. या आप ये कह रहे हैं कि बाकी लोग क्या सोचेंगे. आपको यू नीड टू बी थिक स्किन. ठीक है ना. खाल मोटी होनी चाहिए आपकी, वरना आप प्रॉब्लम सॉल्वर कभी भी नहीं बन सकते. आप कोई भी नई चीज नहीं सीख सकते. आप सारी जिंदगी लोगों से मुंह छुपाते फिरेंगे. ठीक है ना. यू विल हैव अ फेक पर्सनैलिटी. सो यूनिवर्सिटी एजुकेशन में जो मेच्योरिटी है वो तभी आएगी, क्योंकि देखो ना, फोकस क्लियर है. आप क्या चाहते हैं? ठीक है ना. अगर आप ये चाहते हैं कि जो है ना इस टेंडेंसी को काउंटर करने के लिए मैं आपको ना आइंस्टाइन वाज अ फिजिसिस्ट, बट ही सेड मेनी थिंग्स अबाउट ह्यूमैनिटी इन जनरल. उसने पता है बड़ी जबरदस्त बात की थी कि स्टेबिलिटी, स्टेबल, ये बिल्डिंग स्टेबल है, गिर नहीं रही है, अर्थक्वेक आ भी जा ही नहीं. सो उसने कहा था कि द मोस्ट स्टेबल शिप is the one which is actually वो क्या कहते हैं उसको, जो anchored, आई डोंट नो उसको क्या कहते हैं, जहाँ पे वो एंकर लगाते हैं, वो शिप जो जो हाँ? क्या उसको कहते हैं, डॉक या। तो अगर आप चाहते हैं कि आपका शिप स्टेबल हो, वो ना टूटे ना वो डूब जाए, तो उस शिप को लगा दे उस डॉक पे और उसको हिलने की जरूरत ही नहीं है। समझ आ गई? तो अगर आपका ये रवैया है कि लोग हंसेंगे, पता नहीं क्या सोचेंगे, तो फिर आप घर बैठ जाए, आप यूनिवर्सिटी आना भी नहीं चाहिए, आप घर पे बैठ जाए। ठीक है ना, आप उधर बैठे ताकि कोई आपको ना देखे, कोई ये ना कहे कि यार इससे कौन से कपड़े पहने हुए हैं। ठीक है ना, और स्टाइल, और ये तो लास्ट वीक भी इसने यही, अब कल मैं इसी शर्ट में आया था ना, तो आई थिंक देयर इज वन गाय यू सॉ मी इन दिस ड्रेस अप, या सो यू कैन से ओके, और कपड़े नहीं है इसके पास, मुंह उठा के उसी में आ गया है। If I start paying attention to these things, I cannot teach properly. Same is true for you. ठीक है ना, मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि आप जो है ना बिल्कुल जो है ना वो हर चीज छोड़ दें, बट देयर आर लिमिट्स, यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू गिव इंपॉर्टेंस टू अननेसेसरी थिंग्स। ठीक है ना, आप हर चीज जो भी आप कर रहे हैं वो आपके गोल के हिसाब से हो, गोल ठीक करे, बाकी चीजें फॉलो अप हो जाएगी। ठीक है ना, और ये जो होते हैं ना नेसेयर्स, नेसेयर्स कहते हैं ना, इज दिस राइट स्पेलिंग, जिसे हर चीज में क्रिटिसाइज करना होता है, तो वो उनकी कमी नहीं है, वो तो उनका काम ही यही है बस। ठीक है ना, सो इट्स योर जॉब टू इग्नोर देम। ठीक है, दूसरा क्या, मार्क्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन मेरे ख्याल में वो तो अभी हमने फाइनलाइज नहीं की ना, वो मैंने ग्रुप में शेयर किया हुआ है। इन द रीजन यू मस्ट ज्वाइन दिस एज सुन एज पॉसिबल इज दैट वी विल शेयर यू द मार्क्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन। फॉर एग्जाम्पल सेशनल 1 की कितनी वेटेज होगी, 2 की कितनी होगी, फाइनल की कितनी होगी, क्विज़ की कितनी होगी, असाइनमेंट की कितनी होगी। ठीक है ना, जो असाइनमेंट आपको मिलेंगे, असाइनमेंट में टिपिकल टेंडेंसी होती है कि एक असाइनमेंट करता है, बाकी कॉपी करते हैं ना। अब इसका प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि वो जो असाइनमेंट कर रहा है सिर्फ वो सीख रहा है, तो हमारा मकसद तो सिर्फ मार्क्स देना नहीं है ना। ठीक है ना, हम चाहते हैं कि आप इस प्रोसेस को समझें। अगर आप से नहीं हो रहा, आप किसी से हेल्प लें, लेकिन समझें। मेक श्योर यू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट यू आर डूइंग एंड ट्राई टू मिनिमाइज द नंबर ऑफ टाइम्स यू सीक हेल्प फ्रॉम समवन। हर दफा अगर आपने किसी और से पूछना है, इसका मतलब यू आर नॉट इवॉल्विंग, तो हो सकता है 1 या 2 दफा हो, लेकिन ट्राई टू बी इन कंट्रोल। ठीक है ना, हर चीज कॉपी करने से नहीं होती। सो लेट्स नाउ एक्चुअली टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, व्हाट आई एम गोइंग टू शेयर नेक्स्ट इज आल्सो नॉट माय इन्वेंशन। मेरे ख्याल में मैंने सिर्फ ये किया है कि उसको थोड़ा सा या ऑर्गेनाइज किया हुआ है। सो इफ यू ट्राई टू रीड अबाउट दिस, मे बी it will take you 5 to 6 years, and because I tried to document it, so it's very easy to list these steps. So I will just now draw 3 circles, or 3, I would say, just like Venn diagram, yeah. ठीक है ना, so they are just 3, I would say, I tend to call them worlds. So there are 3 worlds. ठीक है, so I'll just write the world and world, but there are 3 different words. So I'll start with this one, right? Acha, although I'm using the board, but what I'm talking about is the real world. ठीक है, real world. तो मुझे एक बात बताएं कि अगर मैं यहां पे ये ड्रॉ करता हूं, so what is this? A car. आप भी गलत बोल रहे हैं और मैंने भी गलत किया है ना, ये कार है और ना मैंने ये हरकत ठीक की है, क्योंकि मैं भी क्या क्लेम कर रहा था कि मैंने ये लिखा है रियल वर्ल्ड के लिए, तो इज दिस रियल कार? अच्छा, अगर ये मैं कार की पिक्चर ले लेता और यहां पे पेस्ट करता, फिर भी गलत होता। कार के लिए आपको पार्किंग में जाना पड़ेगा, आप जाएंगे और वहां बैठेंगे तो आप उसको कार कहेंगे। ये कार नहीं है, दिस इज अ स्केच ऑफ ए कार। और अगर ये पिक्चर होता तो आप इसको इमेज कहते हैं। ठीक है, समझ आ गई बात? दूसरा, व्हाट इज दिस? दिस इज अ वर्ड, आई कॉल इट अ चेयर, या, लेकिन ये वो चेयर नहीं है जिस पे आप बैठे हैं, ठीक है ना, जिस पे आप बैठे हैं वो रियल वर्ड है, समझ आ गई? सो यू नीड टू डिस्टिंग्विश। तो मैंने यहां पे मैं ड्रॉ कुछ नहीं करूंगा, ये मैं सिर्फ आपको बताने के लिए कि जब हम वर्ड की बात करते हैं तो द रियल वर्ड, द नेचुरल वर्ड, द फिजिकल वर्ड इज अ कलेक्शन ऑफ थिंग्स एज दे आर। कुर्सी को आप कुर्सी ना भी कहें ना, वो फिर भी अपनी जगह पे होगी। लेट्स से हमें कोई आके निकाल दे इस कंट्री से और वो कहेगा नहीं हम इसको कुर्सी नहीं कहेंगे, हम इसको टेबल कहेंगे, और जिसको आप टेबल कह रहे हो हम उसको कुर्सी कहेंगे। उनसे कौन इस मुल्क में बहुत सारे लोग ऐसे काम कर रहे हैं जो जो करने वाले नहीं है, लेकिन वो कर रहे हैं फिर भी ना। तो हम तो कुछ भी कर सकते हैं। अगेन वो गजाली ने ठीक कहा था कि हम ह्यूमंस दे डू थिंग्स दैट, या, दे डोंट बिहेव लाइक ह्यूमंस, लेकिन उससे वो नेचर चेंज नहीं होगा, वो ये शेप चेंज नहीं होगी। दिस थिंग डजंट केयर वेदर यू कॉल इट अ टेबल और नॉट, समझ आ गई? दिस डजंट केयर वेदर यू गिव इट अ नेम और नॉट। देयर आर बहुत सारी चीजें ऐसी हैं जिनका कोई नाम नहीं है, तो नाम नहीं है तो इसका क्या मतलब है कि वो है नहीं, वो फिर भी है ना। देयर आर मेनी एनिमल्स who have not been discovered yet by the biologist, तो इसका ये मतलब है कि वो है नहीं, वो फिर भी है ना, समझ आ गई? तो रियल वर्ड डजंट केयर हाउ यू नेम इट, हाउ यू क्लासिफाई इट, और वेदर यू आर देयर टू क्लासिफाई इट। ये सारे लोग मर जाए ना, कोई भी सारे, और निकल जाए, ये जो मेज है ये अभी अपनी जगह पे होगा, अभी उसको मेज कहने वाला कोई भी ना हो, बट इट विल बी देयर। बात समझ आ गई? रियल वर्ड ऐसे है। सो नाउ यू कैन इमेजिन व्हाई इट्स डिफिकल्ट to deal with it, because it comes up with all its complexity। और इसमें फिर आप ये बैठ जाएं कि ये मैकेनिकल इंजीनियरिंग वाला टेबल है या इलेक्ट्रिकल वाला है या केमिस्ट्री वाला है, उसी टेबल में हर एक को अपना प्रॉब्लम नजर आता है, जिस तरह उसी कुरान में से हर फिरका अपना मतलब निकालता है ना। तो टेबल में मैकेनिकल इंजीनियर को अपना स्ट्रेंथ नजर आ रही है, केमिकल वाले को नजर आ रहा है कि इसमें ये सेलुलोज है, इसमें कार्बन चेन्स है, ठीक है ना। जो बिजनेसमैन है वो कह रहा है कि यार ये कितने में बेचूंगा तो मुझे पैसे मिल जाएंगे। हर एक का अपना मतलब है, ठीक है ना। सो डू नॉट कंफ्यूज द रियल वर्ल्ड विद हाउ यू सी थिंग्स, समझ आ गई? सो हाउ यू सी थिंग्स इज हियर। तो इसको मैं कहूंगा रियल वर्ल्ड, और इसको मैं कहूंगा कंसेप्चुअल वर्ल्ड। तो यहां पे मैं ये भी लगा सकता हूं, मैं यहां पे नाम भी लिख सकता हूं, ठीक है। यहां पे मैं जो मर्जी कर लूं। दीज आर माई मेंटल एफर्ट्स ऑफ लुकिंग एट द वर्ल्ड, मेंटल मॉडल्स, कॉन्सेप्ट्स, नेम्स, पिक्चर्स। और आप ये ना समझे कि ये काम सिर्फ हम करते हैं। दिस इज नेसेसरी फॉर सर्वाइवल, सो ऑल द एनिमल्स आर डूइंग दैट, ऑल द एनिमल्स। ये नहीं है कि वो जो कुत्ता है वो आके इस तरह का डायग्राम ड्रॉ करेगा, क्योंकि इफ दे मस्ट हैव सम रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ रियलिटी इन देयर ब्रेन्स, वेदर यू अंडरस्टैंड इट और नॉट। तो उनका अपना कंसेप्चुअल वर्ड है, आपका अपना है। हो सकता है उनका कुछ वर्ड आपसे बेहतर हो, अब पता नहीं, यू ऑलरेडी नो के देयर आर सम ट्रेट्स इन विच एनिमल्स आर बेटर देन अस। बात समझ आ गई? बट डू यू रियली बिलीव दैट दिस इज इनफ, whether we are talking about humans or dogs or cats or and snakes or whatever? What is wrong with this, or what is not enough? What is lacking? ये डिस्क्राइब करने की हद तक ठीक है, और किसी हद तक काम निकालने के लिए भी ठीक है। आपने किसी चीज को चेंज करना है तो आप, ठीक है ना, वो लेट्स से आप, मैं एक एग्जांपल दे रहा हूं। Let's say you go to let's say there is a family and there is a kid who gets actually some disease or whatever. They go to a medical practitioner, and what they do, they actually diagnose और उसको कोई मेडिसिन वगैरह दे देता है, ठीक है। और मेडिसिन आके यहाँ पे आ जाता है, ठीक है। और लेट्स से वो दोबारा बीमार हो जाता है, तो क्या करते हैं? और लेट्स से आपने पैसे बचाने, आप क्या करेंगे? आपको ये नहीं पता कि वो कितना डोज देना है, बस आप अपना तुक्का लगाते हैं ना कि बस ठीक है थोड़ा सा ज्यादा लगा दो, ठीक है। ये जो है ना हम ये करते हैं, तभी तो हमारे बच्चे ठीक नहीं होते ना, क्योंकि हम अच्छा यहाँ जो भी एक दफ़ा घर बनाता है वो समझता है कि मैं कंस्ट्रक्शन इंजीनियर बन गया हूँ, वो फिर लोगों के घर में बनाता है, वो असल में बनाता नहीं, वो बर्बाद करता है उस फैमिली को। तो हम जब बच्चे का इलाज करवाते हैं तो हम डॉक्टर बन जाते हैं यार, फिर दोबारा उसके पास नहीं जाते, दोबारा तब जाते हैं जब वो सीरियस हो जाता है बहुत ज़्यादा, ठीक है ना। सो why am I sharing these examples? Because we are using this word. This word is not precise. This is very crude. हर चीज का हमारा एक रफ पिक्चर होता है. There is a rough picture we have, right? So we only think in terms of like hot, cold. For example, अगर मैं क्या करता हूँ, hot, cold. So I can distinguish between hot and cold, but I cannot say how hot and how cold. उसके लिए मुझे प्रिसाइज चाहिए क्या, टेम्परेचर. तो टेम्परेचर इज समथिंग विच कैनॉट बी इन दिस वर्ड. समझ आ गई. या डोज कितना मिलीग्राम देना है, ये दवाई कितनी मिलीग्राम देनी है, ठीक है, ज्यादा कम, मोर लेस. तो इस वर्ड में ये जिसको हम कंसेप्चुअल वर्ड कहते हैं, वी हैव अ वेरी वेग पिक्चर ऑफ रियलिटी which is good enough for many things, but it is not good enough for getting things precisely how we. For example, इस तरीके से आप बिल्डिंग नहीं बना सकते. आप घर के सामने लोगों को तंग करने के लिए 3-4 पत्थर लगा के एक दीवार बना लेंगे, लेकिन आप घर नहीं बना सकते इससे. आप कंप्यूटर नहीं बना सकते, समझ आ गई. आप एक फोन नहीं बना सकते इससे. आप जुगाड़ ही कर सकते हैं. तो ह्यूमन सिविलाइजेशन विल नॉट बी पॉसिबल विद दिस वर्ड. इज दैट क्लियर? और इसमें कंफ्यूजन और भी है. इसमें लेट मी गिव यू, you use words and they mean different things and there is no way to figure it out. Let me just give you an example. Motion. I will write 2 words, yeah? Motion and electricity. What is motion? How will you define motion? अब मैं और फखर साहब लड़ पड़े. मैं कहता हूं कि मोमेंटम में मोशन है. एम आई रॉन्ग? अब ये ना कहे कि टीचर है तो बुरा मान जाएगा. मोमेंटम इज समथिंग रिलेटेड टू, और फखर कहता है कि नहीं, काइनेटिक एनर्जी इज मोशन. हु इज रॉन्ग एंड हु इज राइट? हाँ, ये डिबेट ही फजूल है, क्योंकि मोशन इज नॉट ए टेक्निकल वर्ड इन द फर्स्ट प्लेस. So why are we fighting over its definition? It is not meant to be a technical word. समझ आ गई बात? तो वो जो 2 वर्ड्स मैंने बताए हैं, काइनेटिक एनर्जी एंड मोमेंटम, उसका एक ही डेफिनेशन है. और सारे सिविलाइजेशन, चाहे आप जर्मन हो, चाहे आप हिंदू हो, मुस्लिम हो, सिख हो, बरेलवी हो, देवबंदी हो, ठीक है ना, you cannot change the definition of kinetic energy because the definition has to be the same. और वो यहां नहीं होगा, वो यहां पे होगा, ठीक है. तो यहां पे जो चीजें होंगी वो क्या होगी, प्रिसाइज होंगी. काइनेटिक एनर्जी का एक डेफिनेशन होगा और मोमेंटम का फॉर्मूला होगा. समझ आ गई? इलेक्ट्रिसिटी दूसरी एग्जांपल है. व्हाट इज इलेक्ट्रिसिटी? हाउ विल यू डिफाइन इट? इट इज नॉट अ टेक्निकल वर्ड. मैं कहूंगा करंट को मैं इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कहता हूं. फखर साहब कहते हैं कि नहीं यार, वोल्टेज है, वोल्टेज के बगैर तो करंट पॉसिबल नहीं है. अब क्या नाम है? हाँ, बिलाल साहब कहते हैं कि नहीं यार, एनर्जी है. अब क्या नाम है? जैनब कहती है कि नहीं, एनर्जी नहीं, पावर है. हम में से कोई भी गलत नहीं कर रहा, क्योंकि इलेक्ट्रिसिटी इज नॉट मेंट टू बी प्रिसाइज. सो देयर इज नो पॉइंट इन फाइटिंग अबाउट इट. हाँ, वो जो नाम मैंने बताए हैं वो सारे उधर हैं. उधर करंट भी है, वोल्टेज भी है, पावर भी है, एनर्जी भी है. लड़ाई खत्म हो गई. अब समझ आ गई? तो इसको कहते हैं फॉर्मल वर्ड. क्या? इस तरह स्पीकिंग फॉर्मली, आप एक इंग्लिश वो लिखते हैं जो व्हाट्सएप और फेसबुक पे लिखते हैं, कुछ भी लिख देते हैं. और एक आप वो लिखते हैं जो जब आपने एग्जाम देना होता है, या किसी को ईमेल करनी है, लेटर, अदालत में आपने कोई बयान देना होता है, हल्फिया बयान, एफिडेविट, वहां पे वो आप चबलियां नहीं मार सकते जो व्हाट्सएप पे आप मारते हैं. लॉल्स आप नहीं ले सकते उधर. ठीक है ना, वो इधर होगा। समझ आ गई? तो इज दिस क्लियर नाउ? वी सो यू हैव, अच्छा ये मकसद ये नहीं है कि ये बेहतर है ये नहीं, यू शुड बी कंफर्टेबल टू स्विच बिटवीन दीज थ्री वर्ड्स whenever needed, क्योंकि इनमें से एक भी इनफ नहीं है। दिस कैनॉट एग्जिस्ट इन आइसोलेशन। ये बेसिकली इसी की रिफाइनमेंट है। तो आप बेसिकली स्टार्ट यहां से करेंगे, हम वी गेट बैक टू द रियल वर्ल्ड प्रॉब्लम। When you have a real world problem, that will come to us in this way. There will be real people, real customers, real situations demanding your attention, and you will be a real world problem solver. तो आपके एक्शंस भी रियल होंगे, लेकिन बिफोर यू रिकमेंड दोज एक्शंस, बिफोर यू कम अप विद अ प्लान टू सॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम, you first need to simplify this detail to a conceptual word. ये पहला स्टेज होगा। इस स्टेज में यू लीव आउट मेनी अननेसेसरी डिटेल्स। तो लेट मी गिव यू एन एग्जांपल। लेट्स से अगर आपने मोशन को स्टडी करना है, तो मोशन से पहले, अच्छा आप मोशन उसको कह रहे हैं, यहां पे आपको कुछ चीज नजर आ रही है, लेकिन वो कौन सी चीज मूव कर रही है पहले उसको तो डिस्कस करें ना। तो लेट्स से ये चीज मैंने यहां पर आइडेंटिफाई की है। तो दिस इज वन मॉडल, वन पॉसिबल मॉडल और वन पॉसिबल कॉन्सेप्चुअलाइजेशन ऑफ समथिंग रियल, द रियल कार, राइट। अच्छा अब मेरा लेट्स से मकसद ये है कि लेट्स से आप अपनी गाड़ी में, जिसको मैं कार कह सकता हूं, अब वो कोई भी कार हो सकता है, आप उधर से आ रहे हैं घर से और आप you start from your home and you reach the campus, and let's say I have a problem, I want to know how long does it take you to reach the campus so that I can assess how much time should I allow. Let's say students come very late and I have to decide when should I stop the door, when should I close the door so that they stay outside. This is an important decision which I need to make, right? And for that I need to have a general picture of, on the average, some of you might take 1 hour to reach the campus, some of you might take 2 minutes because they're just living nearby. So this calculation is a problem, right? For this problem, do I need to know the engine of the engine type of the car, कि वो 1200 cc है, is it 1200 cc or 1800 cc, is it imported or is it local, is it used or is it brand new? No, all that detail is not enough. I can model that whole car as a point. So, but before that, this point will represent the car. And this point is here, right? So let's say you will need some coordinates, and I'll call that 0, 0. Let's say you are moving on a two-dimensional plane road. There is no ups and downs. Simplification, right? Simplification. So this is your starting point, and I say, okay, you move this way, and then this way, and then this way, and here is fast. So I just want to know, okay, how long did it take? How much, yeah? What more time or things like that? All those calculations. You can do that better than me. But so what kinds of assumptions am I making? I'm modeling that complicated thing just by a point. I'm modeling the paths to be straight, although they are not straight. So I'm making many simplifying assumptions so that I can make calculations. But before this, I need to make some effort there. So before I call this a particle or a point, and I call this a straight path or a line segment, I have to somehow here conceptualize, okay, the car is just a rigid body. It is a rigid body. So it means that what matters is that the car, you're only interested in how the car moves as a whole. You're not interested in how the car bounces up and down. Suspension system is not your concern. Okay? But if I now change the problem, मैं आपको इसलिए बता रहा हूं कि each problem will demand different details. So let's say you change this problem and you want to go for a car that has a better comfort in terms of suspension system. So will you model that car as a particle or as a point? No. That point model, I mean, if you are calculating distances and times between cities, you can even model an airplane as a point or as a particle. On a map, you can even represent the entire country called Pakistan as a point. If you want to know how far Pakistan is from, let's say, South Africa. But if you want to know how many rare earth metals can be found in this country, you cannot model this country as a point. You have to go and do all those excavations. अब आप समझ आ गई कि every problem will have details, and some of the details will be irrelevant, some of the details, but who will decide? The problem will decide. So going for a better suspension system, or going for where I can find water and where I can find oil, these are different problems that they will require different models. But that model in this world will not come by magic. You first have to simplify things. तो अब मैं आपको एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ. When I am calling it a car, or let me just give you another example. A rigid body, for example. Rigid body means that the deformation, the fact that car can actually, yeah, compress and expand, that is none of my concern. But that is, so basically I have two models. I have a rigid body in which I'm only concerned about the mass. Because in rigid body models, you're only concerned about the mass. But if you want to determine, for example, do we have something here? Wait, this one. This one. Can I take this? Look at this, right? I want to figure out how large this should be so that it can fit my pocket, yeah? Let's say मैं इसे निकाल देता हूँ. Now I can actually, I have to change the shape, right? And I have to make a decision whether I can fit it in the pocket. अब यहाँ पे rigid body नहीं चलेगा, क्योंकि यहाँ पे motion as a whole is not the concern here. Here the deformation is what I'm interested in. Spring model, Hooke's law, आपको याद आ रहा है? Spring model, Hooke's law, it is of your use. That is your model when you are discussing or when you are solving a problem. So for example, if I want to know when will this table, for example, break, you put some load on it, you keep increasing the load, at some point this table will not be able to withstand, it will just break. Can you use a rigid body model of this table here? We know the table looks like a rigid body, but that model is only good enough for motion as a whole. If I want to transport this table from this room to that room, and I want to know how much effort do I need, how much time will it take, uske liye this table is a rigid body, fine. But in order to find out what load will make this table yield and break down, for that I have to model this as a spring. ये वो जो स्ट्रेस स्ट्रेन डायग्राम है जिसमें उसकी बस हो जाती है, वहां पे न्यूटन वाले फॉर्मूले नहीं चलते. समझ आ रही है बात? सेम सिस्टम, टू मॉडल्स. समझ आ गई? Bulb, this although you are not using those bulbs, but have you seen those old bulbs like incandescence bulbs? Yeah, when we talk about the electrical properties only, we model that bulb as a resistor. आपको ये देखना है कितना वॉट ये कंज्यूम कर रहा है. What about trying to analyze how can that bulb help you warm up the room for you? Let's say you want 10 bulbs because you don't have access to heating and you just want those bulbs to heat the room. That same bulb will be modeled as a thermal resistor then. And you will not be using Ohm's law there. You will have to use the equations for thermal capacity. So actually you know all these rules, you know all the laws, you know all the models. I am only reminding you that the strategy, only the strategy is new. The body of knowledge you have is not new. आपके ज़हन में आ सकता है. You can actually ask this question that we have already studied physics, both in O levels, A levels, metric, FSC. Why are we studying this physics again? The purpose is not to reteach you those topics. You already have those topics. The purpose is to learn how to bring that body of knowledge in a more structured, organized way to solve real problems, not the exercise questions. So again, I will give you an example of a physician. A physician can have all the knowledge in his 5 years of education plus 1 year of house job, but he or she may be a total failure because they lack diagnosis. उस knowledge का कोई फायदा नहीं है if you cannot recall that knowledge to deal with the patient. Yeah, so knowing things is one thing, making use of those things to solve a problem is a completely different thing. So the reason you are studying this course again is not because I'm going to reteach you. I'm not going to tell you, oh, you studied Ohm's law, but that was wrong. So let me teach you the correct version of Ohm's law. No, Ohm's law is Ohm's law. Who am I to actually tell you that that was wrong? But what I can tell you that you have not learned when to use Ohm's law. You may be using Ohm's law where it has no relevance. And I already gave you the example. Finding out, yeah, because there you might need Joule's law, yeah, of heating. How can electrical energy be converted to thermal energy? Things like that, right? So the next thing, I think this was enough, that I start with a real world situation, then I have this first step of simplification. वैसे there is a name for this process. This is one layer of simplification. This is the next layer of simplifications. Here I am only trying to leave too much detail. So I can call this conceptualize. But here I go even further because there is still vagueness. Yeah. So I need to make sure that when I'm using equations or I'm using a computer program or some theory, the objects must be crystal clear. So I'll now give you an example. So and simple but not too simple. So let's say let me ask you two questions, and now you are going to tell me which model is pertinent. So let's say if I am only interested, let's say this bottle is here, right? This bottle is here, and I ask all of you to leave the class and come back after 5 minutes, right? You come back after 5 minutes, and now this is here, and I only ask you calculate the change in position. तो आप क्या कहेंगे? आप जाने से पहले, before you leave, you will represent this location. You're not interested in the shape of this bottle. You're not interested in the material and the price. Yeah, you just will pinpoint its center of mass. It was here, so you will model that location. जिस तरह आप कहते हैं मुझे pin location भेज दो. Send me your pin location. You need one point with its coordinates in 2D or 3D. And the problem is only asking you for a change in location. So just one model is enough, a point. Okay? Or point is as simple as possible. क्योंकि इसके पास क्या होती है? Let's call this point A and let's call this points B. This was before you left the room, and this is after you came back to the room. So how will I describe this point? This is just a name. This is not enough. Yeah? Calling it a name is not enough, right? So I will have to say, okay, maybe this was 0, 0, and now this is 2, 3. So now you can calculate the distance. But now change the question. So this was the simplest model that was good enough. Can I make it simpler than that, and it will be not enough? Can someone come up with a model that is even simpler, but it will not have enough detail to solve the problem? How many coordinates am I using to represent the point? Let's say you insist that why not one coordinate? Let's call it 0. Let's call it 3. What is wrong with this model? It is simpler than that. I just need one number. What is the problem here? This will only be good enough if you stick to just one line. You will have to promise that there is no change in direction. And every time I have to follow that same track. तो ये नहीं है कि कभी मैं इधर जाऊं कभी मैं इधर जाऊं. So it means that as simple as possible, but not too simple. Now let's change the question. So one thing is clear, that was too simple, right? Now let's change the question. I ask you, okay, don't leave the room, right? Stay here, but tell me, if I am, for example, applying, interacting with this in this way, for example, if I'm kicking it, so tell me, how long will it take this tubble to reach this point if I'm, for example, doing this kind of interaction with it? Or if I say, okay, if this bottle has to reach from here to here in 1 second, how much velocity or how much acceleration is needed? So can I use this same model in this problem? No, because that now requires interactions, forces, velocity, acceleration. And that requires another property called mass. So I will have to change my model from a point of geometry to a new model. And what will be the name of that model? A particle. Particle also has a position just like this point. But this point has only one property, the position. It does not have mass. It does not have charge. But this particle, which I need to calculate the distance or time, now I have another particle. I still represent it by a dot, but this time I will attach two properties to it: the position and mass. आप समझ आ गई बात? So this will require this process. In this process, you are going to decide that I am solving a problem. That problem requires stripping some detail, too much detail, but retaining enough detail to solve the problem. So it should not be too simple. But here, maybe your language is still, so maybe you just call it a particle, yeah. But maybe you don't know which equations to use, yeah. Like for example, you have another thing. Have you heard this word? Resistor, right? Resistor. You use the word resistor every day, right? This is a resistor. But in order to use this in an equation, is this enough to call it a resistor? Tell me, is this enough? Or is this enough to just write mass? Let's say 2 kilograms. Is this enough? I can attach mass to something that is not rigid. Even a spring can have mass. So it's not just the value of mass you are writing. You are actually assuming that it has mass as the only property. It has no other property. It has no springiness, even though the real thing will have a springiness. But you are ignoring that part. Maybe it has some other properties as well. So lab में जो resistor पड़ा हुआ है, have you seen a resistor in the lab? You go to a lab, you pick a resistor, you take it to a mass balance, you will see that it will also have a mass. Have you ever bothered to calculate the mass of a resistor? Why not? Mass to hai uski. So it means that when you are calling it a resistor, you are actually declaring that I am not interested in other properties, even if it has those properties. तो यहाँ पे conceptual word में आपको ये पता है कि इसका mass भी है. It has mass. Maybe it has some springiness, that resistor can also be bent. So to make sure that all these confusions are actually removed, you go from here to here, and this is something which may shock many of you. Here I'm only ignoring it, but I'm not denying other properties. I know there are other properties, but I'm somehow ignoring it. Here I need to now come up with a very bold statement. So for example, if I draw this diagram, this looks very similar to the resistor you see in the lab. But here I still recognize that it has a cylindrical shape, it has mass, things like that. It is made maybe a copper or something like that. But here, let me tell you, when I draw this symbol and when I draw this point and I'm writing M equals 1 kg, and let's say I say R equals 1 ohm. Now here I have done many things which you don't realize. Here I am assuming that this is an ideal resistor, which means that it is an abstract object in my formal world, and it has only one property, resistance. It has no other property. You cannot say, oh, it has, but I'm ignoring. No, it literally has no. That is why there is a name. It is not just a resistor, it is you must have heard this thing, ideal resistor. People who don't understand the meaning of ideal resistor, you ask them what is ideal resistor, they say it's a superconductor with zero resistance. That's not what is meant by ideal resistor. Ideal resistor will have some resistance, it can even have 10 kilo ohms, but ideal means that you are stripping this object from every other property. It has no mass, no charge, no springiness, no color, no shape, nothing. Now, आप ये कह सकते हैं कि ये तो shape है. This is only a representation. This is purely mathematical. Similarly, this object, the particle with the mass 1 kilogram. So mass 1 kilogram is not enough. You say that it is a particle. So calling it a particle means that you are stripping it away from the spring constant. From any length. It cannot have any length. It cannot have any volume. Can a particle have volume? No. Although you know that the actual thing you are modeling has length, it has area, it has volume, right? ये बात समझ आ रही है? But the equation now, if I think some of you might still be struggling, I will now write two equations. One is V is equal to IR, and the other is, so to help you make this things concrete in your brain, when I say resistor, ideal resistor, I have this equation in mind. This is the only reality. I want an abstract object which will follow this equation, which means that what I have in mind is this graph. Anything which follows this graph, provided this is current and this is voltage, will be my ideal resistor. And there is nothing else, no other detail. And now can you draw the same diagram for this? So I have an abstract mathematical object called particle, which has only one property. अब मेरा आपसे question है. Do you have a question? मेरा आपसे question ये है कि you know about electron, right? Electron. Electron has mass, right? And it also has charge. Can you deny the charge? Can you deny the mass? So is electron a particle? You need to hear my question carefully. Is electron a particle? No. I am asking is. I didn't say can you model an electron as a particle. I say is. Is means you are claiming that it is actually. So when you say electron is a particle, you are claiming that it has only one property, the mass. You are denying the other property, which is the charge. Electron also has a spin. So is a very serious thing. is means that you are claiming that it is actually a particle. So I should replace as with electron can be modeled as a particle. Electron can be modeled as a charge. So when I am modeling electron as a charged particle, I'm ignoring the mass. When I'm modeling electron just as a particle, like in mechanics, I'm ignoring the charge. And I can have another model where I have both the properties. So I have to combine those two equations. So when you model something in this world, you must have some equation in mind. So when you model it as a charged particle, you have Coulomb's law in mind. When you model this as a mass particle, you have probably Newton's law in mind. ये बात समझ आ गई? Ideal. So ideal mass, point mass, rigid body model, things like that. ठीक है? हमारे पास और कितना टाइम है अभी? 10 minutes है. So in these 10 minutes, I need to. Yes, you have a question?
I have a question that we will categorize particles according like this हम लोग एक बार mass particle का यहाँ पे charge particle होगा तो हम लोग specifically ये बात बोलेंगे
Yeah. So she has a very good question. Listen. She has a very good question that because we can use the word particle and charged as well. So if you want to distinguish, you have to use that adjective, charged particle and point mass. But the community has agreed that if you just call it a particle, then the default meaning will be the mass only. And if you want to clarify that, you have to say it clearly. Okay, so let me just clarify two more things, and that is typically that is a consequence of how you, because when you learn things in school and college, you're not aware of these three words, right? So you lack that understanding. So I'm now just going to ask you something. I don't expect the correct answer because correct answer is not important. So I'm going to now, can you help me write the equation between displacement and velocity? What is the equation relating the two? Can someone tell me? D, maybe I use X for displacement, and let's say I write V for velocity. Okay, so now I'm asking you a question. You know cause and effect, right? Cause and, can I say that displacement causes velocity, or should I say velocity causes displacement? Who thinks that velocity causes displacement? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the rest of the class believes that it is the displacement that is causing the velocity. So why do you say that displacement is causing the velocity? I am telling you the reason why you say that. Because when you were studying these topics, which topic did you study first? Displacement. And then you studied? And that's why this is here, and you are computing velocity from whether this is the cause or whether this is the cause has nothing to do with how you studied it, because nature doesn't care about your classrooms. So you're not that special. Maybe there is another nation, they kick us all out and they say no, we will study velocity. So I mean, you should have a very solid reason. So now if my claim is that X is the cause of V, then it should not be possible it should not be possible. So you are also saying that V is not the cause of X, right? You say X is the cause of V, but आपने क्या कहा था? Yeah, you said it correctly, right? But let me claim the other way. If I claim that X is the cause of v, I'm also claiming क्योंकि दोनों एक दूसरे के cause effect नहीं हो सकते, then I'm also claiming that v is not the cause of x. So that means that it should be possible to change position, it should be possible to get displacement without velocity, right? Only then you can claim that x can displacement can exist without needing any velocity. Can you now assess that claim? I told you this bottle was here and now this bottle is here. This is displacement. Is this possible without velocity? No. So displacement is not the cause of velocity. Velocity is the cause of. So now the next question you should ask, what is the cause of displacement? Again, I start from this. In order to move this, I need to change the velocity. What is the velocity now? 0. What is the velocity now? Non-zero. So what made the change in velocity? No, don't jump. You are skipping one thing. Acceleration. I need acceleration. गाड़ी में एक्सेलरेटर आप दबाते हैं, ठीक है? So acceleration is the cause of velocity. Velocity is the cause of displacement, right? Now, what you do need to get acceleration? Force. But where does the force come from? No, you are giving it a name. I'm not asking for the name. What is the force? Where is it coming from? What is the source of the force? Again, you know, why are you not answering that? Because in the first few chapters of physics, you study displacement, velocity, acceleration, force. And you study energy and power very late. So you get the impression that energy must be computed from force, displacement. Nature doesn't care how you study. मैं जब ये इसको पुश करता हूं तो मैं क्या यूज कर रहा हूं? एनर्जी. आई हैव टू यूज एनर्जी regardless of when I studied energy. The need for energy doesn't depend on which class you studied that. समझ आ गई? क्योंकि biology is not dependent on your learning strategies. I need chemical energy to be converted. That's why I need food. Yeah? That chemical energy must be converted to mechanical energy. That's why you need muscles. Yeah, and then you need to interact. So what I'm trying to tell you is that in order to learn this new way of looking at the problem, you have to actually get rid of many of those old beliefs. वो जो nice एक picture आपको paint की गई है, all of that will be actually shaken, and you must not be actually shocked. Yeah, it's the reality works like that. Okay, and we have discussed enough things today, so you are ready for that, right? Discuss it with each other as much as you can, क्योंकि आप discuss नहीं करेंगे, then you'll forget it very easily. So now let's go to the attendance now.